The Commerce Department, by the way, is now extending waivers for mostly rural telecom companies in the United States to use sanctioned Huawei technology for another 90 days. And the Commerce Department warns this is the final extension. About a dozen states still have Huawei-equipped internet carriers, including 4 with Air Force bases and intercontinental ballistic missile fields. The FCC is still working with these companies to find the Huawei gear, rip it, and replace it. Well, it's a confused matter, national security and Huawei and the United States position. Joining us now is Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross to clear a lot of this up. And first, Mr. Secretary, good to see you and welcome to the broadcast. Let's start with Huawei, a national security threat. At this particular moment, we have, in our research, found that there are more countries supporting Huawei in their 5G networks than there are who have followed U.S. requests to abandon Huawei. Does that comport to your reality, to the situation as you see it?
No, it's very disappointing. What they've tried to do is to slice and dice. Their theory is if they limit the extent of the use of Huawei, they'll protect themselves. We don't believe that's technologically feasible in terms of 5G. It was feasible in terms of 4G and 3G because those were fundamentally equipment-based. 5G is much more software-based. We don't think it works. We think they're kidding themselves.
You don't think it's working to in any way compartmentalize or try to constrain Huawei, that if they're involved, then you think that they still represent an espionage threat, and that's the reason so many of our allies are still with Huawei. Do I understand correctly?
Yes, we do, for several reasons. First of all, the assumption that some consultant who's never built the system would know it as well as the fellow who built the system, we think is a flawed theory. So the probability that someone could put into it a backdoor or a calling home mechanism without it being detected, we think is considerable. But even without that, this kind of apparatus needs constant upgrades, constant modifications. So almost every month, there'll be some new thing from Huawei being added to the equipment and to the software. So even if it were okay in the beginning, that's not to say it'll remain okay for very long. And the real problem with that is you'll never really know that it was there until it's too late when they intend to unleash it.
And Huawei, right now, in addition to continuing to build out internationally, despite the protests of you, Secretary of State Pompeo, our allies are continuing to buy Huawei, integrate them into their networks by a higher ratio than are listening to the United States and its concerns about espionage. In the 5G race itself, we were told a year and a half ago that the United States was going to be the victor, that we would be in a significant lead. By this point, our research again shows that Huawei has a commanding lead on the United States in the 5G race. What's going on?
Well, the unfortunate truth is we do not have at this stage a national champion. We do not have a U.S. version of Huawei. Huawei's real competition around the world comes from Samsung, comes from Ericsson, and comes from Nokia. We don't have an American champion. And the reason we don't is that they have destroyed the price structure at Huawei so severely that it's not economical for an American producer to make the equipment. So we're trying to figure designs around it to get to some mechanism where we're not so dependent on the radio relays, which have been a particularly price-depressed part of the system.
And the administration itself, on the one hand, sanctions against Huawei, and on the other, your department granting waivers again for the purchase of Huawei. There is, I think you would acknowledge, something of a mixed message here on the part of the administration that is concerning to our allies as well. They're saying that if you don't want us to buy this equipment, why are you giving waivers to U.S. telecoms to do so yourselves?
Well, that's not exactly what we're doing. The U.S. installations are 3G and 4G. They do not pose the same security risk as 5G. There is no Huawei 5G in the U.S. now, nor does anybody in our government intend to permit there to be 5G. So it's not the case that these waivers have anything to do with that. What they have to do with is it's very important for the rural communities to have good access to broadband.
Right.
The only access they have right now is 4G and 3G Huawei. We can't knock them out of broadband until FCC works with them and replaces the equipment.
Well, I think you would accept at least this humble proposition that I'm putting forward here, and that is that our allies are confounded that we would be talking about Huawei, sanctioning Huawei for its espionage efforts against the United States, whichever generation we're at, whether it's 4G or 5G. The risks are significant, and we have asked them to step back, our allies. Meanwhile, Huawei is beating us at 5G. That has national security implications itself. And don't you believe to something that
Lou, if
thrills me, and that is, yeah, you could, and you will.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If our allies can't tell the difference between the technology of 5G and the technology of 4G, they're not qualified to make the judgment that they can save themselves. They know very well that it's a very different thing, 5G from 4G. We don't object to their using the older stuff.
Right. Well, at this point, why then are we losing the race to China on 5G?
We're losing the race because we do not have a national champion. It's very tough to go to a foreign government, as I have many, many times, explain our view on Huawei, and their response often is, well, who is the American company we can use? Fact is, we don't have one. And that's the real gap. That's the real problem.
Well, Sweden, Finland, Japan are all strong American allies. And just as you have just announced that you're bringing in TMSC from Taiwan, a $12 billion facility in Arizona, and I want to congratulate the administration. This is precisely what the president has said he wants done. You've been working, I know, on this issue for this company for several years. I want to congratulate you here because this is terrific.
Thank you.
Ericsson, Nokia, you name it. These companies should be welcome here as well, working in 5G. Perhaps we could make one of them a champion. Certainly for the United States, something of a proxy, I admit. But my gosh, it's a very amazing accomplishment on your part and the administration's to bring in this very important Taiwanese semiconductor company.
Oh, it really is a game changer because there are only two companies in the world that have the potential ability right now to produce the very small, very powerful semiconductors that TSMC will be making here. The other one is Samsung, a Korean company, and we would love to have them come here as well.
Well, we will. I'm sure that they have just received your invitation, and we hope they will respond forthwith.